With a brand new NBA season tipping off tonight, now is as good a time as ever to put together our award predictions. From Rookie of the Year to the MVP award, I'll be breaking down the top contenders for each category and making my case for who I think will take home the hardware this season. For each award, I'll also throw out a dark horse pick, and I've got some sneaky ones that could make you some good cash if you're willing to place a bet on them. So without further ado, let's jump right into it with the Rookie of the Year award. The 2024 NBA draft class was not as highly talented as we've seen or grown accustomed to over the last few years. We've really been spoiled with guys like Zion and Anthony Edwards, Cade Cunningham, Paolo, and then obviously most recently, Victor Wembanyama going number 1 overall. And this draft class just didn't pack as strong of a punch at the top, but that does not mean that there is not a lot of valuable players here who can look to have really strong rookie campaigns. It's also important to note that with an award like Rookie of the Year, opportunity means everything. It doesn't matter if you're the most talented person in your draft class, if you're stuck behind all-star caliber players at your position and aren't able to showcase your talents on the floor on a nightly basis for the rest of the league to take watch. So that's something that I'm looking for very closely when I'm looking through some of the top guys who are in contention for this award, which is why a guy like Reed Sheppard, who's a lot of people's pick to win Rookie of the Year this upcoming season, is not someone I think is going to be able to win the award, because with guys like Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, Amen Thompson, and Cam Whitmore all at the guard spot there for the Rockets, it just seems like it's going to be too much of a logjam for him to really be able to get enough minutes consistently, at least early on in the season, to really build up a strong case for the award. Zach Edey has also shown flashes of dominance in both Summer League and the preseason so far, and that's a big reason why he's left out as the betting favorite for Rookie of the Year. But I think his game is just going to take a little bit more time to translate, and again, he's going to struggle to build up a good enough case early on in the season to win this award. My pick for this year's Rookie of the Year award is actually going to be Stephon Castle, meaning that the San Antonio Spurs would be the first team to have back-to-back Rookie of the Year winners since Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns did it in back-to-back seasons for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Castle should see playing time very early on with the Spurs, and being one of the most versatile offensive and defensive prospects in this year's draft will pair very nicely with last year's Rookie of the Year winner in Victor Wembanyama. Castle was an effective off-ball scorer at UConn while also being great in transition and being a great connective playmaker, which I think immediately bodes well for the young core there in San Antonio and him pairing immediately with Victor Wembanyama. But where I think this can really shine for him, not just for this rookie season, but for their long-term outlook in San Antonio, is how good and versatile he is on the defensive side of the ball. He has great ball pressure, great physicality against dribble penetration, and just has a motor that you cannot teach. He's a great screen navigator. He's a great versatile defender, meaning he can switch through multiple positions on the defensive side of the ball. He'll pair nicely with Jeremy Sohan and Victor Wembanyama at helping to shore up the defense of the San Antonio Spurs. So because of his versatility on both sides of the ball, his seamless fit into this San Antonio Spurs offense, and also being able to learn from one of the best guards in NBA history in Chris Paul, I think Stephon Castle will be the Rookie of the Year this year. My dark horse pick for Rookie of the Year is actually going to be another UConn Husky, and that's going to be Donovan Clingan of the Portland Trail Blazers. And this one is a little bit more simple, as I just believe that he's going to be able to find a way to take that starting role away from DeAndre Ayton at some point this season. He's flashed dominance at times during the preseason, with his last preseason game against the Jazz putting up 14 points, 20 rebounds, and 4 blocks. We all know how elite of a defender he was during his time at UConn. If he's able to provide a consistent scoring presence, whether that's 10 to 12 points to go along with potentially double-digit rebounds and 2+ blocks, I don't think is a far stretch for him to be able to get to. And there aren't going to be expectations on him to come in and carry this Blazers team, so he can stick to exactly what he was great at UConn and translate that to an NBA setting. And I think he has an outside shot of potentially being the Rookie of the Year here. So that is my dark horse pick for this award. Moving on to the Clutch Player of the Year award, and I'll be honest, does anyone really care about this award? It feels like an afterthought to have to put through when I'm going through this list, but I'll keep this one short and sweet. I'm going to pick Steph Curry to go back-to-back here. He should see the majority of the late game looks for the Warriors, and I'll expect they'll probably be in a lot of really close games this year. We'll be struggling and scrapping out in what's going to be a very tough Western Conference, and they'll probably be in the play-in race, and they'll need a lot of Curry late game magic to keep them in contention. My dark horse pick for this award is Trae Young. Without DeJounte there, he'll be back to being that sole heliocentric engine for that offense in Atlanta. And I think Ice Trae is going to have some nice clutch moments for what I think will ultimately be a mediocre Hawks team. And that's all I'm going to say on that award. Moving on to Coach of the Year, my pick is going to be Joe Mazzulla of the Boston Celtics. In all honesty, if it was just up to me to pick who I think is the best fit candidate for the award, I would honestly pick Mark Daigneault of the Oklahoma City Thunder to repeat. But there has never been a back-to-back Coach of the Year winner in NBA history, so I'm not going to predict that they're going to break that tradition there. I think Joe Mazzulla is well-deserved of the award. He had a great case for it last year. Now, obviously, coming off of an NBA championship, I think the Celtics are in as good of a position to head right back to the NBA Finals and be far and away the most dominant team in the Eastern Conference. So I will be picking him to be the Coach of the Year for this upcoming season. My dark horse pick for Coach of the Year is going to be Rick Carlisle with the Pacers. Now, many people might say they went on a fluke run to the Eastern Conference Finals last year as they got past the Bucks without Giannis and then beat the Knicks in 7 games without Julius Randle, OG Anunoby, and Jalen Brunson went down in Game 7, all before they were swept by the Celtics, who obviously went on to win the NBA championship. The biggest reason why Carlisle is my dark horse pick for Coach of the Year is because the Pacers offense was operating at a historic pace last season. The Pacers put up the 6th most points per game by a team in NBA history, and that's the most by any team this century at over 123.3 points per night. And the Pacers were able to do this in a season where they acquired Pascal Siakam at the trade deadline, but were not able to pair him with a healthy Tyrese Halliburton, who had been on fire to start the season, but after dealing with a hamstring injury around the halfway mark of the season, was not able to get to that same level of production with Pascal Siakam on the team. I'm predicting that with the both of them having a healthy offseason together, the Pacers are going to be even faster, their offense is going to be even more potent, and they will be a team that is in the mix in the Eastern Conference, potentially having a route to being a top 4 seed if a couple of things fall their way. And a lot of that will have to do with the coaching philosophies of Rick Carlisle and how he structured this offense to play so fast, so much so that they even are willing to give up certain buckets on the defensive side of the ball just to be able to get out in transition off of the inbound pass. This team plays fast, they're fun to watch, and if a couple of things go their way, I could see a path for Rick Carlisle being the Coach of the Year. For the Sixth Man of the Year award, I have Naz Reid going back-to-back, becoming the first back-to-back winner since Lemon Pepper Lou did it in 2018 and 19. The versatility that he brings to both ends of the floor for this Timberwolves team is critical to their success in a year following a Western Conference Finals run. Now, obviously, they just traded away Cat to the New York Knicks for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, but again, I do think he fits in so nicely at that six-man position. He'll still be able to have the same impact on both sides of the floor that he did last year in their deep playoff run. Naz Reid can score at all 3 levels, catch and shoot with range, shooting over 41% from deep last season. He can put it on the floor and take slower defenders off the dribble while also being able to outmuscle smaller guys who are attempting to guard him. He's one of the biggest matchup problems off of the bench in the entire NBA, and he can take over games on the biggest stage as we saw in the playoffs last year. Coupling his offense with quality rim protection and help side defense and his ability to be serviceable on the perimeter, he feels like a lock to repeat the award he took home last season. My dark horse pick for this award is Trey Murphy III, who just inked a 4-year, $112 million extension to stay with the Pelicans, and barring a Brandon Ingram trade, which is very possible, he will be coming off the bench again for New Orleans. He's quickly becoming one of the premier 3-and-D wings in the league, and he truly embodies that archetype almost better than anyone in the league currently. He's a career 39% three-point shooter with deep range and a high-pointed release, allowing him to get hot and launch bombs from deep while also using his athletic tools to be active on the perimeter and in passing lanes on the defensive side of the ball. With the Pelicans' playoff run aspirations, if he stays in his six-man role, again depending any trades, he has a sneaky shot to take the award home as one of the premier 3-and-D wings in this league. Before I give my pick for most improved player, bear with me for a second because I have to go on a quick rant. What happened to this award? Back in the day, it feels like it went to players on teams who had breakout seasons and changed the trajectory of their careers. Guys like Giannis, Pascal Siakam, Jimmy Butler, Monte Ellis, they were all mid or late first or second round picks who went from being unknowns or really raw talent and took massive leaps in their game beyond what was expected of them, won this award, and shortly after became superstars or all-stars in their own right. Now, two of the last three winners of this award are Ja Morant and Tyrese Maxey, who both nearly averaged over 20 points per game this season before they won the award. It feels like we're rewarding a player for developing into what is already expected of them, which doesn't feel like that's what this award is really about. And now heading into this season, the heavy favorite to win the award is none other than last year's #1 overall pick, Rookie of the Year, and the most hyped prospect since LeBron James and Victor Wembanyama. He's expected to become this generational talent. He should not be in consideration for most improved player of the year. Now that my rant is over though, I'm not going to have a dark horse pick for this year's most improved player award because my selection is a guy that's not even available to place a bet on at a lot of the major sports books. He's that much of a long shot, but I'm calling my shot here and now, and you heard it here first. I believe Moses Moody will be this year's most improved player. Moody just signed a 3-year, $39 million extension just a few days before the tip-off of the season with the Warriors, and he's been giving out buckets left and right in the preseason. He's leading the Warriors in points per game on 46, 39, and 94 shooting splits. Now, obviously, I understand this is a small sample size, but the Warriors are in desperate need of their young talent to take some big steps forward if they have any hope of being competitive this year. And while most people are pointing to guys like Jonathan Kuminga or Brandon Podziemski to be the person who will take the biggest jump and are favorites to win this award, I think Moody is really slept on here. He's easily the best and most versatile scorer of those three and can play extremely well off of Steph and Draymond, off the bench or as a starter. I see a world where Moses Moody can jump up to 17 or 18 point per game scorer this season for the Warriors in their first year without Klay Thompson and solidifies himself as a core member of this group for the foreseeable future and locks down most improved player in the process. Now, I know I just went off about Wemby being the favorite for most improved player of the year, but he's also the favorite for defensive player of the year. And this one I do agree with. I think this is a lock, barring injury. Victor Wembanyama will be this year's defensive player of the year. We all know him as the generational talent that he has shown himself to be, but he is one of the most talented shot blockers this league has ever seen. He covers more ground than I've ever seen anybody else able to cover before. He's able to erase shots at the rim that he honestly has no business really even contesting in some circumstances and is still able to get back and make a play at the rim. He's a freak on that side of the ball as well as offense too for that matter. But he just is going to be so dominant. I think there's a world where he's able to average over 5 blocks potentially this season, and I think he might have multiple seasons of averaging 5+ blocks. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. That's just how good he is, and guys are going to want to try him at the rim because he's the big 7'5", former #1 overall pick. You want to get your highlight over him? People are going to test him at the rim, especially him still being young and early in his career. He's going to have a lot of highlight defensive plays that are going to go on his sophomore season mixtape. He is my pick for Defensive Player of the Year. My dark horse pick for this award is not one that I would personally consider a dark horse, but he is sitting outside of the top 10 betting odds favorites for FanDuel as I'm recording this video, and that's going to be Herb Jones of the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, Shams reported that he's going to be starting at the 5 this year for the Pelicans. I'm not sure if that's going to last forever. Obviously, I think that's going to be a wait and see how it works out type of thing there. But it just speaks to how versatile he is as a defender, really being switchable 1 through 4 and potentially 1 through 5 as well. He is one of the few players in this league that you can truly say can almost erase an individual player on the other team on any given night. He's that good. He has great instincts. He's great technically. He has all the athletic tools, and he's long.
Hey, yo!
And he uses that length really well to be able to play in passing lanes, to frustrate you on dribble penetration, and can also cover a lot of ground as a help side defender too. Herb Jones, again, not somebody that I think is a dark horse per se, but for the way that the betting odds are structured, he's my dark horse pick for this award. Now we get to the big one. We get to the MVP award, and I'll be honest, this was by far the most difficult award to pick. Even at the end of last season, I ended up rolling with Luka Doncic as my MVP, but I thought him, Shea, and Jokic, and Giannis all had very valid cases to win the award, and I feel like all of them are going to have valid cases again this year, barring health, with the addition of Anthony Edwards, and the guy that I am going to pick for this award is actually going to be Jayson Tatum of the Boston Celtics. I think Tatum is going to come into this season and treat it like a revenge tour for all of the critics who said that he was carried to a championship, who laughed at him for not being able to play in the Paris Olympics. I think he's taken all of that personally. He's going to come out and show y'all who he really is and why he is an MVP caliber player and will cement himself as an MVP this year. One of the biggest criteria these days to win the award is team success, and the Celtics look like they're going to be primed to dominate the Eastern Conference for the second season in a row. What I think will make or break this award for Jayson Tatum is if he is able to come out and shoot above 37-38% from the three-point line, which I have to know is what he did last year in the regular season, shooting right at about his career average at 37.6% from deep. Obviously, he struggled in the postseason, shooting 28% from behind the three-point line, but I think that has clouded everyone's perception of Jayson Tatum, and people just seem to forget the fact that he played so phenomenally in the finals outside of shooting the ball. He was phenomenal as a rebounder. He was essentially playing point guard for this Boston Celtics team and was also having to body up guys like Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively on the defensive side of the ball as well. Tatum is without a doubt one of the most versatile superstars in the NBA, and it feels like he's gotten penalized for the Celtics building a great roster around him and Jaylen Brown, so that on nights where he doesn't have to carry the offensive load for the team, people just seem to chalk that up as he's being carried, he's having a bad game, when they're just box score watching and not looking at the entirety of the picture in ways that he's being able to affect the game on both sides of the ball. Like I mentioned, he essentially ran point guard for the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals. And I think, again, he's heard all of this noise all offseason. It was honestly only amplified with the situation there at the Olympics where he wasn't played by Steve Kerr. And I think he's going to come out and dog the NBA this year. He's going to put everybody on notice, and he's going to show y'all that y'all need to stop playing with his name, and he is going to cement himself as the MVP this year. Now, lastly, for my dark horse pick for MVP, I did want to go with Anthony Edwards, but I don't think I can say it's a dark horse pick when he's currently listed at the 5th best odds for MVP on FanDuel as I'm recording this video. So, scrolling a little bit further down, my dark horse pick for MVP is actually going to be Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, he's coming off of a labral tear last season, which caused him to miss roughly the last 50 games of the year after coming back from suspension. And the Grizzlies team as a whole last year was really depleted, and they ended up with a high lottery pick. And all of this may have just been a blessing in disguise for Memphis, as it allowed them to get Zach Edey, who, again, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the favorites for Rookie of the Year and has looked really good so far in the preseason. In addition to allowing young pieces on their team like Gigi Jackson and Vince Williams, as well as Santi Aldama, to continue to grow and develop in a larger role and really get comfortable with NBA reps, now we'll be able to go back into a bench role for this team And that, I think, has really elevated the floor for this Memphis roster. Let's not forget, we're just a couple years removed from this team being the number 2 seed out west. And like I mentioned, team success has become such a big factor for winning the MVP award. And I think this team, while the Western Conference has gotten significantly better since that point in time, I think this Grizzly team has also made some real strides. And I'm expecting to see a lot of growth again out of their role players coming out of the extended reps that they got last year. And I think Ja Morant is going to not miss a beat and come back being the energetic, explosive, dynamic player that he always is. And I think, again, if I had to pick a dark horse for this award outside of guys who I think have a real shot to get it, I think Ja Morant is as good a bet as any to potentially win the MVP award. That is all of my NBA award picks for this upcoming season. Go ahead and drop a like, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. Let me know what your NBA award picks are and give me some of your own dark horse picks for this upcoming year. And let me know if you're going to drop a bet on any of these, whether that's my pick or your own. I'm just curious to see what y'all are thinking, what y'all are cooking up there in your FanDuel account. And y'all let me know if I'm tripping out about the Most Improved Player award, or do y'all feel the same way that I do about it? Either way, this has been Fadeaway Culture. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for the next one.